Many of you know our guests, but I will just briefly introduce them. Lena is Ukrainian film director. She directs movies as well as documental movies, but also works as a theater director from time to time. Now we are working together in TEATRZE in a project involving young Ukrainian actress, two of them, and some other Ukrainian women. Mia, as you know, is a student of Hochschule Ernst Busch in Berlin, and you have seen her performing in the performance we've seen recently. Dębska is still our student in Akademia Teatralna, Theatre Academy branch in Białystok, and Marek Waszkiel is a professor of our school, former director of puppet theaters and theater critic, I may say, and theater historian as well. So I would like to start from asking you, Mia, how do you find this subject of technology as a basis of your performance? I mean, it was scientific both in form, having this experiment as the main line of creating the space and the narration, but also the science is your subject, is a deeper subject. I would like to ask everyone to speak to the microphone because everything is recorded.
So the technical aspect of our play was basically the thing that was there first. So we started with the idea of silence and how to reenact silence on stage and how to deal with that subject, and for that you need noise. So the idea of our director was to include a professional sound maker who works mostly in television and movies, but also has worked on theater stages before. And then we started experimenting with the combination of digital noise or recreated noise put onto live events on stage. And from that, the idea of this whole science experiment started to develop more and more, because then somebody from our group remembered that there is something called sonar research, and how that one phrase that sonar waves can't dissipate into the atmosphere, they will always remain. And so that fascinated us, and we put that onto this little thriller that we put together. And for us, it was really interesting to see how to put three different perspectives onto one stage. So we have the sound stage, and then we have the projection, and then the main event happening in the middle with the puppet. And I think that in our time right now, it's so important to try to connect these different aspects of theater, because we need to keep moving to stay relevant as well. And this was a very interesting experiment to see how that could happen and how you can create something together with that.
So just one more question for you concerning the performance. So as a puppeteer, as an actor, usually, or we all are, used to being focused on one thing, or, well, let's say one thing, it's me on the stage or me with a puppet on the stage, but it's me, my voice, it's a whole thing. And the question for you as a performer, how do you find it? Do you find it different, or it's just the same to perform in these many layers? Because you've been acting in each and every layer, and this is, it seems a bit different from the outside.
It really teaches you how to divide your focus. So there also, I think for me it was also very interesting to see how the group starts synergizing with each other. So you need to find the group focus, otherwise it won't work for the audience. And to really try to switch focuses between the certain aspects in a sense that makes sense for the play itself was difficult, but also really interesting. And what I found intriguing about it is that since we are puppeteers, we've already started like learning how to properly focus on something else and make that focus so intense that the audience will focus with us. So this was just an extension of that. And it worked, I mean, sometimes more or less, but when it works, it's magic.
So my question is now to Professor Marek Waszkiel, because I would like to ask you, like in relation of what Mia said, do you find this scientific or technological possibilities a new puppets or extension of puppets, or it's something completely different than puppets?
No, sure, it's absolutely perfect. I don't know. We should think and talk about this show, or generally.
We can
maybe we can start from the show.
Start from the show, yeah.
Because it's absolutely fascinated for me, because it is it is not something new. Absolutely, because we have many experiences in very different performances with this kind of techniques. However, it is, for me personally, it is extremely fascinating because we have in this show a kind of motion capture. I can say it's not true in a very small element of the motion capture production, because from one side we have the maquette of the space of the room where everything is going. We have the projection by the live camera of everything which is going on the screen. From another side, we have the main plot of the story, performing by the live actors and especially by wonderful puppet, very well manipulated. And the third part is just the mixture table. I don't know how can I name this arrangement of everything, which is sound station. Okay,
sound station.
Then in this show we have something really for me fascinated, because we have the mixture of different elements, of very different techniques, which are using on the same time, in the same plot, in the same story, and the result of that should be created in our heads. Of course, I'm a little bit sorry, because my German is really is nothing. Then it's impossible for me to understand all the details of the words, which should be very interesting as well. But I created my own story of this performance, of this silence, of this very aged man, not so aged, because if he will be really an old one, that it will be impossible to hear nothing for him. Then he is just in a very special area, and he's trying to create his own space for be comfortable in his life. That is something for me fascinated in the performance, and I should create all these images in my head, because I should combine the elements which are presented on the stage just to create my own image, my own story from all these elements which are presented. And this is something really fascinating. I think it was really a good experience for the students, because I remember some years ago, maybe, I don't know, 10, maybe 15, maybe more, I have seen the live motion capture production, which is a little bit similar, but at the same time different. And of course, we can see all the effects of this technique in the games. But to see that on the live theater, to see all these elements, it's really fascinating. The history of this movement, I think, come from the 60s, 70s, or something like that. Then during today in the contemporary theater, we have so many elements of the multimedia, fascinated, great, which make a much more rich the context of the puppet theater. And it is one of the elements, like computer in our everybody life. It's one of the elements, multimedia, I'm talking generally about that. It is one of the elements which should be used in our everybody days, in the theater as well, in the puppet theater as well. Then for me, it is nothing special just for the puppet theater, but thanks to the multimedia, thanks to the techniques, we receive today something new, some new tools, to make our performances more interesting, probably. However, in the contemporary multimedia, we have very different kind of the performances, and that is as well interesting.
I would like to go back to the silence in a moment, but you anticipated one of the subjects, one of the themes I wanted to have here in our discussion, and I would like to say something which is provocative, maybe not necessarily true, and of course it's not about this performance. If I say a statement like multimedia may be dangerous because they are doing. They are how to express it. They are not helping in developing imagination on the stage. If I say a statement like this, what would you say about that? Any of you?
Я не myślę, że to może być mieć jakąś. Sorry, for me it's difficult because two languages together. My Polish pull off my English, and now they are struggling inside of me. Dla mnie to było bardzo ciekawe, jak
Mów po ukraińsku, a ja postaram się tłumaczyć na angielski.
Nie, spokojnie. Ja włączę teraz polski i wszystko będzie dobrze. Dla mnie było ciekawe, jak tutaj grają z uwagą. Bo dla mnie było ciekawe, co jest najważniejsze, jeżeli patrzeć na to jak na kadr. Dla mnie było...
For me, the most important thing for me is the game with our attention, because everything was split into different frames.
Because znowu my Polish come back to me. Dźwięki bardzo jest ważne. Dla mnie było niby ja przyszła na studię i po prostu mają film i moi kolegi po prostu robią dźwięki i kiedy oni zrobione rękami, to działa bardzo mocno.
The sound is very important. When I started my studies, I saw my colleagues developing the sound in film, and I noticed that when it's made by hands, so like not digitally, but in an analog way, it works.
Tak, bo коли ти робиш фільм, ти потім приходиш на студію і просто włączysz dźwięki i robisz ich ręcznie, te wszystkie dźwięki, i to działa. I potem tutaj ja zobaczyła, jak bardzo dobrze działa lalka też i jak uwaga od dźwięków idzie już na lalkę.
And I saw the puppet works well, and how this attention, this tenderness from making the voice, the sounds, go back to the puppet.
І також зауважила, як файні гра декорація, просто макет, в którym ми користуємо з światła, jak on działa i to po prostu bardzo dobrze zrobiona praca i dla mnie to było fantastyczne zobaczyć, jak po prostu skacze nasza uwaga z jednego przedmiotu na inny.
And also this maquette, this image of the house that was being filmed worked very well, perfectly, and also made me want to see how my attention goes from one element to the other and makes one whole image.
I dla mnie nie ma, ja nie boję się, że coś może coś zabić, teatr może zabić film, albo film może zabić teatr. Po prostu jeżeli dyrektor ma jakiś pomysł, który chce wyrazić, ma coś zrobić, że my odczuli tak samo, jak on czuje, po prostu on bawi się, gra naszą uwagą.
I'm not afraid that a theater may kill the movie, or the movie may kill the theater. It just comes from one to another, and it's very important for our attention.
Thank you, it was great.
So also Lena anticipated my next question, which was like I wanted to ask if we can think of multimedia in a theater as a appropriation of another genre of the film, but you have already asked that. So now I would like to ask Gosia, what do you think about that? Let's go back to my provocation. We know that Professor Waszkiel is not afraid of multimedia in theater, and Lena is not as well. What about you?
I'm very afraid. No. Of course I'm not. I think it's a great opportunity for opening up. I think theater is fine. Theater will survive. It's as we could see in this performance, it's a chance to connect different fields. And personally, I think from this friction of connecting different genres, different media, theater is a medium, by the way, is a kind of a media. From the friction between different things, we create new things, and we can explore new areas. So I'm not afraid of the theater's future at all.
And what about your work? How do you use multimedia in your works, and what is it for you? I have it changes. It depends on the topic, what you were saying. It depends what I want to say. In my experience, what I try to do, and as far as that I know, I don't think anyone tried it before. I created a performance, work in progress, actually, shown a few months ago here in Białystok with a couple of contemporary dancers here from Białystok. What we tried to do was to create a modern dance performance piece for teenagers involving an app, an multimedia app. Application.
Yes, yep. An application for your mobile, and we tried to be intertextual with it. So there was one story that the dancers were dancing with their bodies, and there was a little bit different story going on in the app. So the audience could download the app before the performance, and in moments that we chose, we told them to switch it on, and they could kind of see more details. They can, of course, choose to switch it on or not, and they could follow the story and knew maybe a little different details about the characters, that their perception of the dancers changed a little bit, because they knew a different story than a person that wouldn't use the app. We try to give them bigger perspective.
You wanted to add something, or?
Well, there are many things to talk. You know, we have no time for all of that. But I think one danger, not danger, one. The most important question, because some months ago I have seen an extreme example of using multimedia. It was in German as well, in Zwickau, in Puppentheater Zwickau, when I have seen the VR, I don't know if it is a good English name, VR 360. And that is a question, because the show was absolutely great. I am fascinated by this presentation. It was based on Goethe, small ballad, Król Olch. I don't know what is English translation of this title. Doesn't matter. It was a half an hour performance with the Google, of course, with the goggle on our devices, and everyone was sitting on the movable chair, and we have the performances which turn around ourselves. And in the puppet theater, it is something absolutely great for some special theme subjects. But it's a kind of extreme example, because it should be registered at the beginning. Then for the artists, for the actors, for example, it's a kind of very strange experiment, because they can perform only one time. Just for one time, many times, to register the show. And then we have the registered version, and we as spectators, we can see just using the goggle. That's all. However, even in this example, I am absolutely sure that I have seen the performance, the live performance. Because this kind of relations we have between our own imagination and thinking during the presentation, and everything it is going around us on the stage, or the space, not stage, because it is not on the stage, or the space. It is absolutely live. It is live, absolutely full of the emotions. And for the puppetry art, it is something extremely interesting, because, for example, one of the scenes in this performance use the horse, and the horse is make the gallop or something like that. No, and I can see the horse which is just between my eyes. I can touch him, and he make a jump under my head. And I should turn immediately to see how this horse is going after myself, you know. And I should find where the action is going on, because the action is going around myself on the same time. And all the emotions are so fresh, so incredible, that however it is filmed, it is still a kind of live theater, with only one problem for the performers, for the actors, because they can receive only the money for one show.
So I can assure you that it's going further, because we already stepped into metaverse in our discussion. But I will say about my own experience before COVID. I think in the beginning of 2019, me and Marcin Bartnikowski, Malabar Hotel, we had a meeting with the guys who made this film, Madame Tutli Putli, this animation movie, and they invited us to take part in the project concerning Stanisław Lem. It was Lem year, and they said they are going to make something like this, the VR, but they want the VR to be unpredictable. So they want to put some elements that are filmed and happening all the time, but sometimes they want the puppeteers to be inside as an image. So I would have probably some electronical points on myself and doing some things new, like improvising for the people It also goes in the direct. It didn't happen because COVID came and everything was cancelled. But actually, I know that this is happening. That what you said is being combined with live action. So for puppeteers are safe, I would say. And do you see, Lena, Mia, Gosia, do you see any dangers of using multimedia or?
I mean, it's an interesting line. I think in VR, from what I experienced, and I also took part in some performances in VR, what I've seen, the quality wasn't that good. I think just playing a game on your PC the game has much better quality than the performances I've seen. So I think it's still a few years since we have a few years to go since the quality becomes as good as a game. But yeah, I've seen the performances taking place in Second Life, totally online with live people and live audience participants. But also, another performance I've seen from a Polish director, Garbaczewski, that plays with this idea. He created a VR theater. So I kind of didn't see the point because he just created a stage, put a live actor on it, I mean, in the VR metaverse, and audience was there live with their avatars. The actor was there with his avatar. I mean, for pandemic, it was very interesting because from our houses we could see a very well-known Polish actor giving his best monologue. But it was a theater, you know, like a 3D theater that we are sitting here right now, but actually we can touch it, and over there we can't. So for that time, it was quite interesting, but it didn't go anywhere. It was the same as here, right? So actually I prefer it here. But maybe if the techniques go further, it might be a different quality of experience.
I have been thinking about that a lot as well, especially because as students and like starting to like be led into the world and exploring, we have talked about it a lot, about the multimedia aspect and the digital aspect of theater. And I do think that the only danger there is to it is that sometimes, like right now, there is a bit of a shift where, for example, projects like that get a lot of funding. So the analog theater and puppet theater especially, which I think is still extremely important and will not be replaced by multimedia, sometimes has difficulties finding spaces. So for example, in Berlin, we have a very like cool space for puppet theater, but right now they are taking more and more like this digital aspect to heart, and so a lot more.
Shabuda or
yeah, exactly, where we have performed as well just before, and we now fit into it. But for example, when we tried to apply like students from our school with other projects that were more analog, it didn't work out. So I think that is a danger. But apart from that, I think it can go hand in hand, and it's interesting to see where we can lead these interconnections between these different disciplines. And one thing I wanted to say about the performance we did tonight, our eyes were also on the fact that you can see how it's being made. And that is interesting because it is live, it is digital, but it's also handmade to the last aspect of it, from building that little room to like creating and finding all these sounds. And I think that was also something that was very important to us, that we didn't go away from a more traditional sense of handmade theater and especially puppet theater.
If we can add something, I think augmented reality has a great future in theater. So let's take what we have, new experiences and new technologies, and augment reality that we have. Not repeated, just the same as we have it right here, right? Just explore it, find new spaces, and I think augmented reality can do it, and actually is, for me, it is the way to explore it more, and it's more interesting.
However, I'm quite sure that we have a lot of dangers multimedia in the contemporary theater, puppet theater as well. One of the examples, but only one. I can find a lot of that. We are using quite often the very simple level of the multimedia as a projections.
Like a scenography.
Like a scenography. And that is from year to year, from one to another performance, worse, and boring and absolutely uninteresting. Because anyway, scenography, the real scenography, it's a kind of creation. A filmed scenography, the projection, it's in some examples, it's absolutely great. In some performances, that is perfect. But it started to be a very simple element of the so-called contemporary theater, and very unintelligent artists are using that as a main tool for everything. They are very contemporary because they are using multimedia. However, it is absolutely not interesting. It's one of the danger because we have many experiments with that, and that is still the space very open. Nobody knows how it will be in some years. I remember just the first electronic marionettes created by Xavier Paré, the French. He's living in Central America, in different countries, in Mexico, and he's one of the really perfect creators of the electronic puppets, electronic marionettes. But from this time, from the 90s till today, well, when we have the possibility to see, for example, the experiments, the work of Iris Meinhardt, another 20 years ago, I think, she presented her student exam production etude here in Białystok. He graduated Stuttgart many years ago. And she's doing today the very attractive multimedia theater with the digital puppets. Not last, because she created some more, but one of the last creations by her, which called Alice in Cyberland. And you can just imagine, just as a subject, Alice in Cyberland. That's provoke a kind of unbelievable possibilities for the imagination of the artists. Then I think it's just we are just in the moment of looking for some new possibilities, how to combine that together. And for example, this kind of mixture, which we have seen on another level, on a much higher level today in this Berlin show. I try to remember just the performances from the 80s, from the 90s, when everything was on the stage with the live atelier of the artist. Which try to create something on our live presence on the auditorium, not just to close everything and to have just this imaginative world. But it's fascinating. Multimedia are well, it's really something new, not so new. However, for many theaters, it's still not so easy to use that because the costs of that are a little bit bigger. They're normal, and of course, with the normal meanings of the theater, of the puppet theater, we can receive as well great things today. It is nothing against to the traditional puppetry art, but it is something for the future, and I am absolutely sure this future can be wonderful with multimedia.
Just for me, what I said about dangers was only a figure for this discussion, because I would like also to give you my big compliments for the performance and for the skills you have, because we can see that you are all together in that. That's the first thing I've seen. And the second thing I have to say, it's very German in spirit, I would say. If we go back to V effect and to having like performers on the stage doing the performance, not acting that performance, which for me is always the biggest truth you can see on the stage, because we are only the performance. And when you do that, it's something, for me, something very life is happening on the stage. So that's also interesting that for me this gesture of showing everything what you do and showing that this is artificial is very much giving life to the material, which is a puppeteering as well. And Lena, I also would like to ask you, because you said about the voices, but what about the it can concern this this production, but also the theater production using multimedia. What about the space and scenography? Because for me, it's also a very interesting subject. When we have the film, very often we can make a very realistic scenography. We can use. We can just use things that are there, like houses or spaces, and in theater we always have to make something metaphoric. Yes, and how did you see that in relation with today's performance?
Film po prostu ma inny język. I korzysta z rzeczywistości, z jakichś sprażnych rzeczy. I to działa.
Film has a different language, and it takes what is there in the reality, and it works.
Jasna rzecz, że kiedy pierwszy raz ludzie zobaczyli, jak pociąg idzie na nich, że oni byli także przerażeni, jak koń, który skacze przez głowę.
The people who saw the train going towards them were as terrified as the horse from the VR tail that jumps over your head.
I myślę, że to po prostu różne tricks, różne, jak po polsku to powiedzieć, triki, które działają, albo nie działają, albo już my jest przyzwyczajony dla jakiegoś trika i czekamy na coś więcej. Ale fajnie, kiedy to działa nie tylko jak trik, jak uczucie rzeczywistości.
There are some tricks that we already know and we wait for them, but it's nice when it doesn't work just like the trick, but like a reality.
I tutaj my widzimy, jak działa światło, jak działa dźwięk na nas.
See how the light, the sound works on us?
I my już nie widzimy, że to jest zrobione tutaj dla nas po prostu rękami. My odbieramy to już jak rzeczywistość.
And we stop seeing this as handmade for us, but we start seeing this as a reality in our head.
I dla mnie to najważniejsze, jak to połączyć język filmu i język sceny. Dla mnie to teraz jest ciekawe, bo kiedy zaczęła się ta pandemia, musieliśmy siedzieć przez komputerach i robić rzeczywistość taką, robić spektakl online.
It's very interesting for me how this movie goes into the theater, especially after the time of pandemic when we just had to make and be inside of this reality online.
I dla mnie było ciekawe, jak pojednać te dwa języki. Co możemy korzystać z języka filmu, na przykład bliski plan, który jest wykluczny w kinie, na przykład.
It was very important for me how to make these two things, theater and movie, go together, especially, for example, a close takes which are not normally possible in classical
Nie, no
theatre.
jasne, że to possible. Kiedy aktor idzie tam blisko do widowni, to jasne, to też...
But some people are quite away, so the actor can go close to the audience, but I said yes, people, but he...
I jak to wykorzystać na przykład to magia teatru, kiedy nagle jakiś subject, jakaś rzecz staje żywa po prostu.
How to use it when this magic that can happen in theatre when an object becomes alive.
Na przykład kiedy robiliśmy tam spektakl w Zoomie i kiedy z jednego okna przekazujemy rzecz w inne okno i ona nagle tam znika, a tutaj już jest. I
So
to...
for example, in Zoom we made these tricks that one object goes to another window and it disappears in it.
I dla nas to był bardzo ciekawy eksperyment, jak zdobyć jakiś nowy język po prostu, język filmu i teatru.
So it was a very important experiment how to build a new language, a language of film and theatre coming together, which is actually what we are talking about here.
To, co my dzisiaj widzieli po prostu na scenie. I dla mnie było ciekawe, dobre, to teraz ja tak widzę. Dla mnie jest ciekawe, czy może być to na przykład bajka animowana. Jeżeli zabrać tych wszystkich aktorów, czy może to być jak bajka, ale myślę, że tak, z jednej strony, tak, to, że może być ta lalka, może być to wszystko wideo, ale coś się straci.
I was thinking if we take out the actors, having seen only the animation, hearing the sounds, seeing visuals without the actors, yes, it could work like a fairy tale, like an animated motion, but we would lose something. It would not be the same as the whole world with the actors.
Tak, my stracimy to, że siedzimy tutaj razem, oglądamy aktory na żywo. Tak, my możemy korzystać z różnych języków, ale fajnie, że my możemy siedzieć w teatrze, być razem i ten ekran, który my mamy jak w komputerze, to teraz taki sam ekran, ale na żywo po prostu.
It's nice to be together in theatre, to be with actors and having this view of the computer projection, but live on the stage.
No i dobrze, że możemy korzystać z różnych języków, żeby po prostu mówić o tym, co my odczuwamy, o tym, co my myślimy i tutaj było bardzo wyraźnie pokazane, co człowiek przeżywa i my razem z nim. Dziękuję.
Nice to be together to see what a man can go through inside his head. And another question, another maybe subject that I would like to talk about is the... Koniec już? Która jest godzina?
Сейчас проверим.
So, very short question. Tak. Okay. Thank you very much.